Hey everybody, it's me, C, back for another daily video. How are you doing? Today, I'm trying to reconfigure my faux dead cat to work properly, or my microphone didn't work properly, or whatever. But anyway, today I'm going to be talking about my cybersecurity journey slash career. Um, yeah, so YouTube likes a hook, or everybody likes a hook. Um, I failed at that. Or I should say more specifically, I failed at working corporate. Yeah. So how that happened, how did my journey even start? So way back in 2020, when back in the actually it was like the beginning of the pandemic times, I was hacked. Like my major accounts were hacked. Facebook was hacked. Gmail was hacked. My Amazon account was hacked. Heck, my freaking Kindle that was attached to that was hacked, and so I wound up losing like 15 years worth of pictures because I was a beta user. Um, whereas it pertains to like Gmail. Yeah, so that was hard. And but then I got curious. I was like, like how did somebody do that? Like what? So I went on a quest. I went on an epic quest to understand how that happened. Now, technology wise, um, I had taken a class in like website development and, fiddled around with that, not professionally or anything, but as a hobby. And had a book on like Wi Fi hacking, which I bought on a whim because I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. um, but when the big personal hack happened, I was like, oh, intricacies. How exactly does that happen? Because the thing that I noticed that still sticks in my mind is that you know how when you have 2FA, or that's two-factor authentication for those not in tech or not in tech yet, um, you'll get a at the time mine it was a text message and it says I used to say what was it, yes or yes if this is you, no it's not you, and I hit no and it popped up again. I'm like no. And then I was looking at my phone and it popped up again. And I'm like looking at my phone and it just goes, yes. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, oh no. I'm like, whatever. I was like, that's when I knew I was fucked. I was like, oh no, this is it's not good. And all of a sudden, like, so I knew to like look at my accounts and try to log in. But by that time, like I still tell you, it was like maybe 5, 10 seconds later, I like tried to log into my accounts. I was locked out. Yeah. So I say that to say, like, that was pretty shocking, but also because I'm weird, it was really interesting. uh, and so I was like, okay, well, what is this area of thing called? And he's like, oh, it has to do with cybersecurity and hacking and all this kind of thing. And I'm like, okay, well, how do I learn this? So it starts out with, you got to know computer networking, right? Um, and so the first class I took really was an A plus class because it'd been a long time since I had dabbled with hardware of computers or putting computers together in that way or taking them apart or anything having to do with, and I didn't know cabling and all that kind of thing. So A plus has to do with, computer hardware, cables, jacks, all these kinds of things. And then I went from A plus class to a network plus class because network plus, you're getting closer to, cybersecurity, that network plus is really, or network plus class in it has everything you need to, or really, not everything you need to know. That's never going to be true in tech, but a good foundation for understanding computer networking beyond the beyond the hardware, the software, and OSI model on how those layers interact with each other and those kinds of things. If you're in tech, you know, you might not remember because you learned it so long ago, but for those not in the know or are thinking about it as um, a potential path, yeah, network plus class, you learn all of those things. You learn how to set up. Um, I don't know, I learned a lot in that class, but more than that, I just really got in the basics such that, passed the class and everything just so I could get on to um, Security Plus class and getting that certificate because that's what I was interested in. Um, Knowing basic cybersecurity, right? And like how does this all even work? Um, and so actually after the Network Plus class, I wound up doing a boot camp from which, and this is 2021, 2022, which I'm like mid-divorce, right? And having to, after my abusive husband, like just left the cars there to be towed and everything, I had to deal with that from a distance and wound up selling my cars. I'm like, okay. I'm like, so I took the money from the proceeds of the car and I bought a boot camp, which was my first boot camp type style class ever. And it said, it's like taking in all of the information from a fire hose, but right to the face. And I'm like, I didn't understand intellectually what that meant until like 2 weeks in. And I was like, yeah, I get it. Specifically to the face, to the head, right? It's because having to learn a bunch of concepts that, now granted, the first couple weeks was networking, uh, refreshment and networking and things like that. Now, since I had just come off of studying for and passing my Network Plus class, I was like, okay, this stuff is familiar. But even like that first 2 weeks, we have people dropping out. And I mean, and I think at that time, yeah, people were, you could still get refunded for the boot camp. So, which, no, not too bad. And that was fine. For them to drop out because I'm like, okay, if you got to drop out, at least they're getting their money back, right? Cool. Um, so I'm doing this boot camp, and I'm noticing like it finally halfway through, and yeah, it's tough because now but halfway in, it was learning basic incident response, and learning, um, wow, just a lot of different area. Here it is, a lot of different areas of cybersecurity and a wide level. A little bit about, man, like 6 or 7 domains in cybersecurity. So, you know, and but my point is by the midpoint of that, just so in case you're thinking about this, so you can actually wrap your mind around it or get your feelings into it or just get adjusted to the pace. I think by the halfway point, like there were like 70 something people. By that time, there might have been 50. And I'm talking about people quit at the point where they could not get their money back. And this is the thing, I sold a whole car to pay for. Okay. Also, with the expectation, of course, of a believe job. Um, so yeah, we're at that halfway point. So 3/4 point is finally to where what I want to learn about, which is offensive security. Because I told you, I went in with, I was like, my whole goal was how the f do hackers like get around like 2FA or MFA, these kinds of things. I'm like, what? And as far as I knew back then, it was, 2FA is like top of the tier, top of the line. Nobody's gonna be able to hack your accounts or whatever. Yeah. So we finally get around to offensive security, which is ethical hacking, in case you're not familiar with the terms. But yeah. So, man, I gotta tell you, my mindset at that time was I was literally not wanting to admit to myself that I really wanted to do offensive security, because even in class, it's like, there's so many more jobs on, blue teaming or doing defense, which is, and SOC analyst at the time, 2022. Okay. No, yeah, 2022. And, and at this time, I think it's like had gotten on the list for, Chat GPT for like the beta testing, for that beta rollout for it. And, I wasn't really thinking too much about it, but, was on the list or whatever. I knew about new models. I didn't, I was just, it was a cutting edge thing. I was like, oh, haha, it's funny. Or not haha, funny, but interesting. And I'll look more into it after I'm finished with the cybersecurity bootcamp, right? So, yeah, going through the offensive security section, and I am like, oh, I'm just going to check it out. I'm just going to go. I'm gonna go do defensive stuff. I'm gonna go do blue team stuff. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Man, but I'm telling you, by the time we finished the section on offensive security, I was like, oh, I love this. I want this. I was like, I want this for myself. I want to be a hacker, because it was so intellectually stimulating. It was so frustrating in a delicious kind of way. Um, and I think is there such thing as intellectual masochism? If there isn't, then I'm gonna start that. when you it started here first. Let's have a bit of intellectual masochism. That's offensive security. Or at least it was in 2022, like um, prior to AI AI's ground adoption, as or and this is part of the story. This whole AI thing, like, of course, isn't it dollars, isn't it ever? So yeah, needless to say, or I should absolutely say, so I, of course, not only did I do really well in the boot camp, I got like, I think I sorted my scores out from all of my things. It was like 96 or 97%. So I did really, really well on my end test, my end. So there was a multiple choice choice test. Come on, words. Multiple choice, and then also there were projects due at the end in order to pass the entire boot camp thing experience. So to kick that in all the way in the booty, it's like, please, because listen, unlike the people who quit and was gonna give away money, I was like, no, I sold a whole, I sold whole cars to be able to, afford this. Um, so yeah, did really well. And the thing that was another goal for the boot camp was that to pass in, like, I think we gave like 3 months. They give us a voucher for the Security Plus, which I was like, yes, it's excellent. And it was good for like, I don't know, like 3 months after the boot camp. And so I think the boot camp ended in like, man, November, September, something like that. But anyway, I waited. I wound up waiting, and not that I was procrastinating or anything, but I was studying so much because I had heard that people had failed the Security Plus and had to take it again. And I was like, I in the past was not a great test taker, and so for me, over preparing was preparing enough. Um, and so I prepared up until the very, like, I waited. I think it was 2 weeks prior to the end date, just in case I didn't make the um, minimum number for passing the Security Plus, right? Yeah, let me tell you something. I mean, we had a study group from the boot camp. We had a whole Discord channel. Shout out to Michelle. Hey, hey. If you ever see this, YouTube video. Shout out to Michelle. She started the Discord channel for us boot campers. And then we even on the Discord channel, like we would get on there studying all these security plus questions because like we were like, no, we're gonna pass this the first time. All of us were like, no, we're passing this test. So we will study like regularly together, and also I was studying separately, uh, and also using like another test prep like application because they would just give you um, like it wasn't a brain dump, but it was like um, a different kind of prep session. Like it was I don't know, it's like oh, it was what's it called? Sorry, Cert Master. Then it's actually part of CompTIA's suite of products for their certifications and whatnot, right? So yeah, I had that Cert Master. Like we were also practicing questions together. Like we would like deconstruct the questions. Like if we weren't 100% sure, like on the question, if it had to do with having to like SOC analyst kind of things and whatnot. Um, Incident response for me, I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, there was a lot that a lot to study for. What is it? 5 domains, 5 or 6 domains. I forget which it is. But anyway, it's more than two. Okay, it's more than one. It's 5 domains across all of cybersecurity. It's many domains. Yeah, to do 5 of them, and each of the domains were weighted differently. So that's important. So of course, study the most on the domain that is weighted most heavily. Por supuesto, right? um, So did that and wound up just like kicking that in the butt too, like to the point where I was like, oh, I way overstudied for this bad boy. And I mean, I way overstudied for it. But for me, I'm like, oh, better to be over prepared and than to not be prepared and have to fail the test and have to spend more money to take it again. Because I was like, I'm not about that life. I'm definitely going to do it right the first time, or study to the point where I feel comfortable that um, that I can get a very good score. Because as I said, up until that point, I was under the impression that I didn't test well or whatever, right? And I didn't ask for accommodation for it either, which probably, which I admittedly I should have, because that would have been more taking care of myself and taking care of my needs or whatever. But no, I went in there just like raw dogging the test, hoping, hoping and praying that I studied enough to easily and quickly answer the questions, which yes, I did, but those months were so stressful, and I could have had a lot less stress if I would have asked for accommodation. So, those of you that need accommodation for test, I would definitely say ask for accommodation um, because, yeah, it leads to a lot less stress while you're doing the studying and a lot less stressful uh, in the actual exam period, right? Because you have more time. And sidebar is while you're taking the test. Now, listen, I don't know if it's just me and my specific spicy flavor, but I talk questions. I read sometimes. I'll read aloud when I'm like in a deep concentration, and you're not supposed to. And like, here's the thing that I think that was really not like where I would think I really should ask for accommodation, because I will sometimes on occasion read things out loud just as because I also I visually see things. It's not I don't see the words, but more just like the idea of the word, like a movie. I see things in movies, and so I read something out loud. It just makes the picture clearer in my mind. And not that I do it all the time, but I did like the proctor of the test was like no talking during the test. I'm like, okay. And luckily, they were gracious enough to be like, I mean, because I should go roll it back a bit, because before you even take your test, they have you like do pictures of your room or do a video of where your test taking space, because I was taking it online. because COVID, or because all that whole thing, and so they knew that I wasn't cheating because like I was at a time in a one bedroom apartment. I was in the singular bedroom and like there was no extra noise or whatever. So when I was speaking out, like they're probably just like, oh, this person's talks to themselves out loud. And yes, sidebar with sidebar. I don't know what it's like after 40. I was like, I definitely talk to myself more. I'm like, so yeah, during the test, you're not supposed to. I'm just saying, just so you have that in the back of your mind if you're going to take the Security Plus or any of CompTIA's online test. Going back to say, just get your accommodation. It makes things a lot easier during the study period up and through the entire the certification exam itself. Do it for yourself. Um, yeah, so here I am, have my whole Security Plus, and I'm like, yeah, I'm celebrating. I do the obligatory LinkedIn post. Hey, I'm so excited! I have achieved the certification. Blah blah blah. Right. So yeah, I did that post, which I actually did a longer post about it because I made sure to say that, you know what, I overstudied for this, like by a lot. It's like here are some ways that you can actually pare down your studying for, excuse me, for the Security Plus. So there you go. Um, yeah, so I at that time was really like of the mind that sorry about the noise, y'all. I really do try and be like, hey, um, on air, but you know, anyway. So yep, had all the happiness, all the joy that I had passed this super for me it was a hard certification. I mean, it was not the style of test that I was accustomed to. It was like, yeah, you go to college and they give you time or whatever, essays or whatever. But this was singularly more challenging, seemed more challenging than like basically a lot of the college tests that I had. So there's that. Um, and really, I was... anyway, all right. So do that, and so I'm thinking, okay, time to apply for like all the jobs or whatever. And then you gotta mind you, by this time, it's it's all of us early adopters and also early adopters in companies now messing about with the chat GPT because that had rolled out, and people are getting um, their pro subscriptions of this service, right? So everybody is now has this capability, and now also that people in HR they were using that are like, oh, we don't use AI to make decisions in hiring or to look at your applications. I was like, that was absolutely not true. That's not true. So I'm going to shorten this to say that, long story short, I wound up with more than 300 companies that I applied to, very selectively applying to, and got like maybe 5 interviews, and yeah. So at that point, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm missing something in my skills or something like that. So I did another boot camp, and it happened to be for free, because it was through a Google program. Awesome, did that. Um, and since because I'd done the first boot camp, I already knew what boot camp was going to be. It's going to be fast. I'm already going to be probably going to be familiar with most of the things, and I was, except for the part that we wound up doing some web dev, and more specific offensive security around some styles of in some certain styles of websites, which that little part was new to me. Also, was having to like program in JavaScript, which that was new to me. I was like, oh, because I had been dabbling with Python at the time. I was like, okay, and also this was um, pre Copilot, or maybe at the time I didn't have it or didn't know about it or something. Um, so yeah, doing JavaScript was a slight challenge. Um, I'm all that to say, fast forward to that, yeah, I came out of that boot camp, and of course did great at that. Um, and that rolled into like a little internship, and then in between time, I even did the Google Cybersecurity certificate thing because I was like, why not? Sure, it'll add to my skills. So now I have like two boot camps, a security class, Google certificate, or whatever, blah blah blah. Surely, after now 320 some applications, I'll be able to at least get an interview or call back or something. No. And also by this point, let me tell you, I had a person from Google look over my resume and like a couple other professionals in cybersecurity look over my resume. They're like, no, your resume is good. I'm like, all right, good. So I know it's not my resume, it's not my skills. It's God, it is. I'm like, something else is going on here. So I applied to jobs all the way up till what, like last year. Last year, I got an interview for a company, but they pulled the bait and switch. I was like, they're like, oh, well, would like you to be on site for a year instead of the 6 months that was, advertised, right? And I'm like, and it's at this time I'm living in Mexico, and it was come back to the US in a time where the current administration was just, it would be coming into, uh, coming into office. And I was like, I'm like, and I'm like, no, you know what? I value my physical safety, so I'm not gonna go with that. So what I did was I intentionally like bombed the test. Which is probably, not the best strategy, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not. Who's gonna sign up once you live abroad? Who as a black person is going to sign up to go back to the U.S. to possibly put themselves in bodily harm for a job? Like, no, no, man. And interestingly, this company's office was in Minneapolis. Yeah, y'all. So had I taken that job, I would have been in Minneapolis, where all the smoke is currently. Hmm. Yeah, I'm mighty glad I didn't even like was not. I was like, yeah, no, you can keep that one. So anyway, yeah. So now again, still had this other internship thing, and I would check in with my advisor, and so that was fun. Um, and I'm saying that to say, so current time in my journey, now that you listen to the whole thing, knowing where we are with the um, other Black folks, knowing where we are with this current administration, and what's going on um, with the job market, um, what is going because of AI and the grand losses in jobs, of course, not just, I mean, over across all sectors. Seriously, let's not pretend like, it might have started like years ago when the manufacturing jobs got shipped overseas, and now the AI has got the quote unquote white collar jobs or white collar job people out of work and everything. I'm like, it's gotten worse and worse since I started putting in like mass applications. And so, yeah, I am now not writing myself so hard to do every single cybersecurity certification. Nope. I am taking it slow and nice and easy, and I'm also betting on myself, me, and this YouTube channel and my community, and making digital products when those roll out, and staying the hell away from the United States because I I don't stay watching the news, but certain things they do come across my YouTube or randomly across my Instagram. And yes, I do have to be like, not interested, not interested. But, and when they do, like, let me just speak of just the whole thing with, and I am like, I can't even. So much of it is that I am just jaw on the floor, flabbergasted that th- this president is like, oh, we want Greenland. Uh, and even prior to that, oh, we're going to bomb Venezuela and go kidnap the president and his wife. And the fact that, I mean, just that that's happening in my lifetime, I did, y'all. And I think we were going to be here at all in that terms, and like politics wise, and also in terms of, jobs specifically, because I'm talking about cybersecurity journey and, wanting to be in tech and all of that. And it's interesting because it really didn't matter that I'm good at it. Doesn't matter that I'm smart. Doesn't matter that I'm good at it. Doesn't matter that I take the exam, the certifications. Doesn't matter that. Um, doesn't matter any of that. Doesn't matter that. Yeah, I'm not afraid to be seen. I have leadership skills or whatever, what have you. All of these other things doesn't matter. The jobs are just not there for people to have, and not only that, specifically because what was that, 2024 cycle, 2025, black people, black women specifically, were losing their jobs en masse. So, y'all, like, causing me to just be like, ooh, yeah, heated, my body heated a little bit because, I mean, they're literally pulling black women out of work. And so not only are there not jobs, but they're taking black women out of positions in government, out of just all of the jobs that, traditionally, black women had. And so I see, really got to see the trajectory in 2020, beginning of 2024, what was going on all through 2024, um, and continue to happen, throughout 2025. And I'm just like, I got to bet on me. And I'm saying this to say, um, maybe bet on yourself and treat tech and the cybersecurity, now that anybody, now that there are hardly any jobs in that, and they're specifically picking mediocre people to fill what few jobs there are. And yeah, I think, um, yeah, bet on yourself. Um, Start looking at contracting and go abroad. Do something different, because I'm entertaining doing something different, right? I'm here on YouTube doing this. And as I said, I'm actually working on digital products. Yes, I'm still going to do my offensive security certification, true. Um, but that's just, now it's just like one little piece of an entire ecosystem, right? So in the future, sure, like you will see like me working on, I don't know, some offensive security thing that's on the PNPT or whatever, I don't know, Windows escalation, something or other, Linux escalation, something or other, whatever is in that classroom. So yeah, I'm saying that to say, how do I feel about, my the cybersecurity career I thought I was gonna have. Just like I thought that was really going to be, like the center of my job thing, or I thought it was going to be my career, like, the one my own career that I could springboard from, right? Didn't turn out to be that way at all. Um, so, but I still love it, right? So it's like, how can I honor the fact that, hey, I'm still, I'm never not going to be good at it. I'm good at it. I'm interested in it. I can maybe get paid to do it. Like, it's like before it was like, oh, you can You like something, you're good at it, you can get paid to do it. That's your ikigai. That's the thing that you do, right? It's like now I feel like you have to have multiple. You definitely have to fill out more of your ikigai and more have more things in your middle circle, because if it's a tech thing, it's like forget about it. Sorry to say, I mean, in my experience, that's just what it's been for me as a black woman in, coming trying to get into tech in 2022 to 2024, 5. um yeah, and that that has been the journey. That's the journey so far. That's what it looks like going off to fulfill other desires and keep that keep keep that fresh, really, just to be doing, something in tech. Remember how to SSH into something. I don't know, remember your Linux commands or whatever, even though, yeah, sure, you can pull it up in a cheat sheet or whatever, but usage breeds familiarity, so keeps it fresh. Do some projects on DigitalOcean, whatever. Oh, did I mention I also did I also did code in place. Like, really, when I tell you that, like, I was really feel like I was counting on this thing to turn out, like, I was like full on into it, and meanwhile really just watching the whole thing. I said the whole thing, I mean watching the entire tech industry just crash and burn, honestly. That is just not at all what I thought it was going to be. So, but also kudos to the people who, could actually get their foot in the door, got lucky, maybe their network like super panned out for them or whatever, what have you. And yeah, that definitely was not how it happened for me, and not how it happened for thousands. So that's super unfortunate for me and thousands of other people who are also good at tech. We love it, and but just didn't find a way into doing that. So yeah, I think now with all the noise, I'm just gonna give it a wrap up. That's the journey of that so far. Thank you for listening. If you made it this far, please like, subscribe. Um, talk about lots of things here. Talk about living abroad. Talk about tech stuff. Talk about neurodivergent things. Talk about health. Um, lots of stuff, makeup, beauty stuff, all a bunch of different things, finances, um, all investing in the future. I talked a little bit about that in a previous video. So yeah, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Alrighty, aloha.